This is Todd Champion, and I'm on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Are you a pro wrestling fan? Well, stop by Captain's Corner, where you can get autographed photos, cards, magazines, and figures from all of your favorite wrestling superstars of the past, present, and future. You'll also be able to participate in live signings in the weeks and months to come. Make sure to stop by Captain's Corner on Facebook and give us a holler. Remember, cheers to the working man.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
For those who don't know, now you know, baby. This is Hot Rod Biggs, Jared, Jimmy Street. We're going to take them to the limit one more time, baby, right here on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one more time to the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast, and I'm here as always with my brother from the same father and mother, the Plastic Sheik, Jared Street. What's up, Sheik? How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, brother. Good. Just trying to put one foot in front of the other and do this podcast thing with you. And, you know, I brought a little charisma with me.
That's good. I was hoping you would say that, because that means the territory wrestling guru and the co-host with the mo-host is on the line. What's up, Q? How you doing?
What's going on, guys? I'm doing good.
Man.
Good to have you, brother.
Yeah. Living the dream, doing the thing. Yeah. So, you know, what's funny is, so Sheik has got a little bit of the working man blues right now. He's been at work all night. But what's really crazy, guys, is today is our 90th episode. That means there have been 90 previous episodes of Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, or 89, I should say, my math, my Russell County, Virginia math. But today is our episode 90. And guess what we're doing to celebrate that, y'all?
Mt Rushmore.
Of the 90s. Isn't that crazy?
Hey. Coincidence? I think so.
I think it might be, actually, because seriously, we did discuss off the air about doing other shows, and we even came really close to recording another episode that we had already recorded before. It's a long story, but the good news is we settled on the official Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling Mt Rushmore of the 1990s. And you know what that means, because Sheik loves the Mt Rushmore. Quinton's got the territory history. So you know we're going to be going deep on this. You know we're going to be digging in and telling you our favorite wrestlers of that awesome decade. I mean, when it comes down to it, we probably are similar in the thoughts of the 80s, 70s, 90s, you know, pretty much being the best era of wrestling. But when it comes down to it, the 90s are huge for us, because not only were Jared and Jimmy watching wrestling like kids and loving it, but Quinton, you were actually in the wrestling business in the 90s, man. Talk about the wrestling business in the 90s.
It was a weird time, especially when I got in, because territories were dying. And so the Indies was just getting flooded with guys, you know, territory guys that didn't, you know, they had nowhere to work because, you know, basically, you know, well, Smoky Mountain was doing some stuff. Memphis was still running. Portland had just shut down. I mean, that was it, you know, and everything, it was just all independents. And so we got a lot of the territory guys worked independents in the early 90s in the Tennessee area. And so it was different. And then toward the, you know, when it got lower in the late 90s, you know, and it was, you know, there was nothing, nowhere, just the big two basically. And so, you know, you had guys that were stars, but they've been working independents for the last 8 years. So, you know, it was different, you know?
Yeah, I bet, man. And I mean, but the cool thing is you probably got to meet a lot of cool people on the indies because of that, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got to work, you know, Ricky Gibson. I'm sorry, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, you know, and that would have never happened if they, you know, they wasn't, you know, if independence and stuff. So, you know, it was, you know, it was pretty cool. You know?
me and Jimmy will live vicariously through you for that, Quinton.
Forever. That's actually why you're on the show, and I don't know if you didn't know that.
I mean, actually, I wish I had the Ricky Morton match. It was in Shelbyville.
Yeah,
I've seen the Robert Gibson match, though.
Yeah, Robert Gibson from Nashville is on there. I was on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I messed up at one spot in that match, but everything else what I did was pretty cool. So, but yeah, it was. And then you got to be in the dressing room with guys, and what I tell you what was really crazy was one night we was in Shelbyville, and all of a sudden, Dutch Mattel he'd come through every now and then, but Dutch Mattel comes in, and Jim Dobson, Big Jim Dobson, who did later did security for WWF, and right behind him comes this giant dude ducking his head. It's the freaking Undertaker.
Oh wow!
And we're like, what the crap? And it was during that time when he did the hiatus where they brought Brian Lee in and all that.
Yeah,
it was during that time, and he was just hanging out, and he rode up there with Dutch and Jim Dobson, and it was like, and I was just like, this is crazy. I was like, these people out here don't know between this brick wall.
Right.
Undertaker is back in this dressing room. They would flip their lid if they knew he's sitting back here with us.
Yeah.
So it was crazy, and I remember the referee Spitshine got a picture made with him, and he told Steve Bryan, he's like, "This better not get out." So yeah, he was back there, and what was crazy, I was managing I had a little stint right there in Shelbyville. I was managing.
Mm-hmm.
And I carried a golf club. I'm sitting there. I look up, and he goes and grabs my golf clubs, practice like he's swinging and everything. I was like, okay, yeah. It was just And one night, a couple weeks, Terry Gordy was down there. It was cool because, man, like I said, you get to see just different guys come through. Tony Anthony, Dirty White Boy, came through.
Oh man,
it was really cool, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no, and I mean, the small bit that I did in the 2000s that, I got to meet some cool people such as yourself, Quinton, but when it comes down to it, man, that is huge because those guys, they were not necessarily looking to stay on the indies. They were at that point looking to go to the other company. So they were just biding their time, on the indies. If I'm not mistaken, I would assume that most guys were either, if they weren't working for the WWE, they were trying to get with WCW or vice versa, unless they were spending their time on the indies, biding their time until they could get a chance. And dude, that's huge. Cause I mean, this could easily turn into just a Quinton Quarisma conversation, but I mean, all the people that, the Undertaker alone, you could have stopped there, you know what I'm saying? And it would have been enough. But then you're talking about all these other people, and I'm sure there's more that you've forgotten.
Oh yeah. Tons of them through there.
But can you imagine those people with that brick wall being there? If there was a Clark Kent or something in the crowd that could see through wall. Oh my God, that's nobody would believe them. They'd be like, "You're lying."
They're like, whatever, dude.
You're lying.
They're like, "Sure, buddy."
Yeah. Well, okay. So this is actually a good pivot point, guys, because actually we just heard an incredible story that we've never heard before from Quinton, and actually, this is the normal time that you would hear this.
This week in wrestling history with Quinton Quarisma.
But it's not the start of a segment. Actually, it's technically the end of a segment. And that's right. Unfortunately, we are not going to be doing the This Week in Wrestling History with Quinton Quarisma anymore. I'm sorry, y'all. I know it's a big deal. But like all things, when a door closes, a window opens, and we've heard from the listeners. I'm just playing. We've heard from y'all. We know how much y'all enjoy that segment. So what we have decided, we are officially taking a segment and we're turning it into a full episode. So from now on until the end of Quinton wanting to do it, we are going to have This Month in Wrestling History with Quinton Quarisma every third Thursday of the month. So that means you're going to get the same interviews you've been enjoying. You're going to get the same great topics like Mount Rushmore's, what if, whatever. But the cool thing is we are taking like I've said, the most popular podcast segment in history, and we are turning it into a full episode, and I am stoked about it. I posted it out there on Facebook. I know the word's already out. We're just kidding over here. But the cool thing is, y'all are showing the excitement. We're really excited about it. Quinton, I know you're fired up, right?
Oh yeah, when you asked me if I'd be interested in doing it, I was like, yeah, and it's I can't wait because I got a lot of the times I have to rush through the cards and don't really talk about some of the guys that need to be talked about, and
yeah.
So this will give us a little more time on some of the cards and then some of the I just do cards, now I can do like stories that happen, in the wrestling business, so we'll have more time to talk about, just general happenings too in the history. So
yeah, absolutely. And to me, it always felt like we were trying to put two shows together almost. And the cool thing is from now on, the opening and closing, we got those with the same interviews. Nothing will change. All we're simply doing, guys, is adding extra content, and we're extremely excited about it. When you have somebody like Quinton, who's the historian that he is and has forgotten more than most of us know, we're so happy that we can take advantage of that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. No, but we're seriously excited to have it. We're excited to promote it. We're excited it's a part of the show. So thank you for that. To kind of come out of that and to keep talking to Quinton here, we do actually have a listener question for you. I don't know if we're going to have a segment called Ask Quinton Quarisma Anything or what. Maybe that's been done a couple times to death, I think. But anyway, Charlie Sword on our Facebook Gimme Back My Pro Wrestling group, he asks this. He says, fellas, I had asked this comment a while back, but I think it got lost in the shuffle. He says, I've heard on the podcast several guys went by the Medic as their gimmick. Can he explain why this was such a popular name? It doesn't ring the same for me as Killer, Cowboy, etc. So just wondering if it meant something different back in the day. Now it sounds like an EMT. Thanks and keep up the good work. Thank you, Charlie Sword. And by the way, this is Charlie Sword, who bought a t-shirt, and his dad was Jeff Sword, who was mine and Jared's principal in high school. Quinton, go ahead.
All right. Well, so I thought about this question. I saw it on the Facebook page, and I thought about it. I was like, well, it pretty much all those mask gimmicks that got really popular in the 60s, in late 60s into by the early 70s, it seemed like everybody was doing them because there were so many territories. And I mean, it's like interns, the medics, and I'm pretty sure several different Dante Mephistos. Yeah. Tommy Hickey talked about, the Mighty Yankees. There have been like 900 of those.
Yeah.
And the Assassins, I mean, good grief. I mean, how many of those would be, so, and just, their territories are so spread out, and guys, they could get a longer run, or they could go, have a run, go away for, a few weeks, come back under hoods, so that, totally different gimmick. They don't know who they are. So you can stay in territory even longer. And then, they were popular because people, only you had your local TV basically. So you don't know what the medics in, Florida looked like in, Nashville or Oklahoma.
Right, yeah.
You don't know, you don't know what they look like. So you've got, people can do them, there's several different, people can, I don't know if it was any backlash, but I think at the time, especially toward the 70s, there was, so many, because earlier, like you wouldn't dare do an assassin gimmick, and so, but I think as long as the further it got on, especially like the medics and the interns, so I think that's kind of, it's more work, and everybody was working, so nobody was complaining, I guess, and it's just give you more runs and territories. Like, if you like certain territory, but you're getting stale, take a couple weeks off, come back under under a hood, a new name and everything. And a lot of people did them. So it was just kind of a thing that, it was you got more run out of a territory that it's basically what, you got more work, made yourself fresh, even though you've been there forever, been there for a year already. So, it was, like I said, there was tons of them,
was kind of like a generic enough gimmick that it could be anybody, but it was a noticeable and well-known enough gimmick that they could run it and it could still be anybody, but it was actually noticeable and a kind of almost considered like a viable team that could work people in a pinch too, right? I mean, they could.
Oh yeah. I mean, but like I said, those TV, you had magazines, so you see the names.
Right.
But
So
so.
That makes sense. And,
they always said like Goulas, because Goulas, they had an East and West, and so they said sometimes, there'd be a team, a mass team in the East side and then a mass team in the West side of the same name. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I didn't, but then some people say, Nick will just put jobber guys and, job guys in there under hoods. And I'm like, and no, because the people would know, and Tom and they know that's not Tom Andrews or the interns in there. That's some other, people would have known that part. But as far as one on the territory, they could do that, no problem. But yeah, just the whole thing was nobody saw them, no TV, you just see the names in the magazines. They were popular, so why not?
Why not? I like it. Why not? I think a lot of wrestling is based on why not, and there's nothing wrong with that, man.
Yeah. You gotta make a living.
The newest segment coming to our podcast, why not?
The cool thing is my favorite medic is Rick Reynolds, and I think he's also in the Guinness Book of World Records as the tallest medic too, I think. Yeah, well, that may not be official, but it is in my book. So
we'll give it to him.
Yeah. Well, what's cool? Speaking of Rick Reynolds, we have got a new sponsor on this show, y'all. It is his wife. The company that she works for, they're called West Side Sauces. And I got a sample pack in the mail the other day, y'all. And let me just tell you, it is incredible. They have amazing sauces, smooth barbecue, Firestorm barbecue. They have Carolina Kick if you like the more vinegar based. They have Southern White if you're an Alabama barbecue fan with that chicken, but it's great on anything, they've told me. They also have rubs, and then they have a hot honey sauce to put on wings. It's incredible, y'all. WestsideSauces.com. Go check them out. Tell them, give me back my pro wrestling sent you. Okay, well, I have one more thing to go until we get to the Mount Rushmore of the 90s, and I just want to give you, Sheik, and you, Quinton, a pat on the back, because for the last 4 episodes in a row, we have been consistently ranked in the top 200 of all wrestling podcasts. I normally don't point this stuff out. I normally don't pick up on it and put it out there. I might send a message to you all in congratulations behind the scenes, but typically I don't point this stuff out. But I gotta say, we're really proud of that, and we just thank you all so much for supporting us and listening to us and helping us be on that rankings. And I know I speak for Quinton and Jared both by saying it comes from the bottom of our heart how much we appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We couldn't do it without the listeners. But I'm going to give you a lot of credit for it, brother. You do a lot of the heavy lifting and hard work, and me and Quinton are glad to be along for the ride.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Well, I am glad y'all are along for the ride, because guess what? The ride starts now. We'll be right back with the official Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling Mount Rushmore of the 90s after these messages. Thanks, guys.
This is Kroll, and you're listening to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling with Jimmy Street and Jared the Plastic Sheik. Be sure to like, subscribe, and view all of our USWO and Saw Wrestling content at Nashville Wrestling Network, exclusively on YouTube.
Hey, my name is Tammy Reynolds. I am the wife of Forsaken Rick Reynolds, that super cool guy that everybody knows and loves. And I represent West Side Sauces. I make sauces, I bottle them, I seal them, I sell them. I have a hot honey sauce, I have a sweet sauce, I have a hot sauce, I have a white sauce that's so yummy you can use it on everything. They are absolutely amazing, and I'm so proud of them. We make them from scratch. So go on our website, westsidesauces.com. Check out our products, read about our story, and go online and order you some of these yummy sauces. And Rick actually uses all of the sauces because he is a die-hard smoker and griller, and so he likes really good sauces and rubs, and I make them, so how convenient is that for him? Go on our website, westsidesauces.com, order you some samples, and I think you'll thoroughly enjoy them. Thank you guys. Be blessed.
This is Steve Bowtie Bryant here. Back in the 90s, I was a pro wrestling photographer for the South, and I released what might have been one of the original sets of indie trading cards. I ran across some of these original sets. They were up in Randall Fanning's attic all this time. PG-13 rookie card, Ricky Morton, George Weingroff as the Sheik, Chris Champion, Reno Riggins, Billy Montana, Gary Valiant, the Scorpion, the Medic, Rick Reynolds, Jeff Daniels, Mephisto and Dante, Ben Jordan, Steve Neely, Marcus Woodrow, Quinton Quarisma, Little Farmer John. If you'd like an opportunity to get these cards, contact me now. You can get them for only $49.99. Contact me at Steve Bowtie Bryant at iCloud.com. Get your set now while supplies last.
All right, we are back with more from the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast. And Sheik, like we said earlier, we are covering the Mount Rushmore of the 90s. And you know, Sheik, I know the Mount Rushmores means so much to you. And so often you ask our guest, hey, what is your Mount Rushmore? So Sheik, let's start with your Mount Rushmore of the 90s.
90s, here we go. No, I'm just I was trying to think of something like radical, tubular, or something like that. Dude. So I'll start with my list, and then you can go, and we can then maybe have any like extras, honorable mentions, other people we just like kind of give a shout out to, so to say, even though they might not have made our top 4 or 5.
Yeah. I like that idea, Sheik. You're the man. Take it.
Yeah. So my number 1, and this is not in an order, so to say.
Sure.
My number 1 guy on the list, the original People's Champion. A lot of people want to say Diamond Dallas Page.
Oh yeah.
I remember DDP being, that mid card. I don't even know if he was full mid card when I first remember DDP. Like I really remember him wrestling Mark Miro or Johnny B. Bad a lot. But I didn't, there was that time from like 96 to 97 where he was starting to be starting to become to be a face kind of. He was starting to get the crowd on his side, and the self high five gimmick is where he really got me.
Self high five.
I love that. I've got my original T-shirt from going to see WCW Saturday night taping in Johnson City, Tennessee.
Oh yeah,
we were on TV, the two of us.
I remember that.
It's always a plus. But that's where he first got me, and that's why DDP is the first name on my list.
And I know you said you weren't putting these in sort of preferential treatment or anything, but I do feel like that this guy is probably your number 1, right?
He's 1A or 1B probably for me, and that's for the 90s.
Sure.
And that's just because, I tried to not do this list based on like top stars of the 90s, because this would be a totally different list. I mean, he's up there and so to say with WCW, but he is just a guy I gravitated towards and really liked him at the time. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I always remember you liking him a lot, and I thought that was fun. So, absolutely.
If there's anybody that's done better work after their career for the boys in the business, I'd love to know about it. So,
right, amen. There you go, man. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And next on my list, probably my 1A or 1B, that whichever one page is Sting.
Yeah.
Love Sting. You got the early 90s, he still got that surfer gimmick, the spiked hair, everything like that. Then he kind of grows out the hair, makeup changes a little bit. Then the Crow Sting, I've always heard that attributed to Scott Hall, kind of some of the help of that. Like whether that's 100% true or not, I've not heard it denied, I guess. But whoever got that in his head and kind of pointed him in that direction, very smart. I always kind of wondered if there was did Turner own the right to the Crow movie? Because I always kind of wondered why there wasn't any like kind of conflict with that.
I think the Crow was it New Line Cinema. Oh man, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was, yeah. I mean, I think it was a tribute for sure to the Crow,
right.
and it worked perfectly.
And it wasn't a perfect rip off of it. I mean, like it was, but it was at the same time. I mean, like,
and I think it's a MGM film, actually. Yeah. So that's a good question. I almost feel like it's one of those gray areas deals, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that that's my opinion. I mean, you know, the 90s were great for Sting, and obviously we might be talking about him again here in a little bit. So,
yeah, love Sting. If I could turn back time and fix anything in wrestling, it might be the way they culminated that at Starrcade '97. If somehow that was fixed better, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah. It would have made a really good storyline perfect, almost.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, there you go.
Yeah,
and so often though, you see it with TV shows or anything, they cannot stick that ending.
Yeah,
no matter what they do, they can't stick the ending. Then here's where it gets tough for me because those two guys were easy for me, and you know, love Austin, love a lot of guys, but I think the next person for me. It's got to be Hollywood Hogan, and and specifically the Hollywood Hogan part of the '90s for him. I know he had his early WCW run, and he had the run in WWF when he beat Yokozuna and stuff like that. But the Hollywood Hogan, just I could watch that video of him coming out at Bash at the Beach '96 and still be in like awe of like the announcers kind of set it up, whether they knew everything or not. I figure they do.
Yeah.
But whether they knew that he was the third guy or not, they just set it up so perfectly. Heenan and Dusty going back and forth like, well, whose side is he on? And Dusty's like, what do you mean, whose side is he on?
Go get him, Hulkster! Yeah, but whose side is he on? What are you talking about? Whose side is he on? What are you talking about?
And then he was, he was the perfect like cowardly heel after being the unbeatable monster for all those early runs. So it kind of works, and the biggest probably issues with the NWO were adding too many people to it, but Hogan was the perfect head of that NWO. I've heard Sting was the guy that they were going to go to if Hogan didn't agree to it, but I can't see Sting. I mean, maybe he could have done it. I just can't see Sting being that hated as people. I mean, we were in the Knoxville Nitro. I'm sure everybody's seen that old lady pointing her finger in Hogan's face a million times in like clips and stuff like that. But we were at that Nitro.
Yeah, I know. The old lady in the sweater wanting to fight him.
Was she somebody's mom or something, or grandmother or something like that? Somebody said something. I was like, I don't know. I don't remember that ever coming out, but
yeah, she was just one of them old ladies that wanted to fight the bad guys, man.
Yeah.
God bless them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but Hogan, to me, it's cool because I think we've talked about this before, but it had to be Hogan. It really had to be, and
it had to be.
Yeah,
it just made it perfect. I mean, maybe some way Macho could have made it work, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like if Sting would have done. I don't think and this, Quinton, you can disagree with me maybe on this, or what do you think about this? But Sting was not the ultimate. It's hard to say. I don't think Sting was as over as a babyface as much when they would have turned him as much as Hogan. It was more of a shock for Hogan, I think, than it would have been for Sting. But
here's my thing. Sting. My whole thing is they had to have a person to stand up to the NWO from WCW.
Yeah.
So it had to be Sting. So I don't think Sting could actually if Hogan didn't do it, I don't think that Sting would have worked.
Right, because I don't think Hogan would have been the good babyface because he was getting booed anyway, right? Kind of.
Yes, he was getting booed. They were piping in crowd things on some of this stuff. Anything was taped, they'd get crowd. They were taping in crowd sound. But with Sting being there since basically day one, and Hogan still really, was still considered outside. And so you had to have two of them to make it completely work the way it did. And I think they picked the perfect two.
Yeah, totally.
Because they couldn't have been Luger. Luger couldn't have been the Sting part.
No, Luger wasn't liked. Luger wasn't liked enough.
No, he wasn't liked, and he left before, and Sting was there from the highs, the lows, and everything in between. And like I said, Luger, I don't think people really liked him. So Sting was the only one that could have done it on, for WCW side, than the Resistance. And then, Hogan, that's the only one. He's the only one that could have got it over because, that's what I think about it.
And I think Luger, like you have kind of said already, but I think Luger was too tweener too much. Honestly, I felt like there were weeks that he was a good guy, then he was a bad guy, then he was a good guy, then he was a bad guy. Then Jimmy Hart was managing him as a good guy, and Jimmy Hart was managing him as a bad guy, and then he was a good guy. And it was like, where is he? And Luger, I don't even think Luger was, I don't know, capable of carrying it like Sting was. But anyway.
So that wraps up 3 of them. So my 4th guy, if you're keeping track at home, and I hope you are, my 4th guy is really gets tough, and I'm just going to do it. I really wanted to have Kane here, and I'm going to put Kane here. I pretty much told Jimmy earlier, I was like, I'm not going to put him there. I don't think his time was enough but when he showed up to be like the nemesis of the Undertaker, he was very believable. Like, he looked like he was like every bit the Undertaker's match and everything like that. And, there might have been, I can't remember if everybody was like, oh, that's Isaac Yankem or that's fake Diesel, but I don't think anybody realized it at first.
No, you couldn't tell the mask. Yeah.
So I'm sure there's somebody out there that said, "Oh yeah, I knew it," but he just looked terrifying to me, and he was scarier than the Undertaker ever was to me in that first little bit. So and he did great work in Smoky Mountain. He probably did what he could with Isaac Yankem and with the fake Diesel. So
yeah, exactly.
So you got to applaud him for that too. He's genuinely one of the best guys in the business, I think, to work with. He's a pretty safe worker. You just love the storyline, and if you're going to have a character to match the Undertaker, it's got to be somebody like that. I think WWE struggled with that, having somebody to match Taker, and when you get Kane, you get that match.
That's a good point because, the work rate, Taker had suffered through so many horrible wrestlers to put them, to go with him because he got stuck with all those, Elegante, Giant Gonzalez, whatever. God forbid. He deserves Kane just for that, and I know they did Brian Lee. I was always kind of surprised they didn't do something more with Brian Adams with Undertaker son, but I guess their timing was mixed up, but he would have been a big guy that could have worked like that,
True.
So,
yeah. Did you ever heard Taker say that that Giant Gonzalez made Great Khali look like Lou Thez because he was so terrible to work with?
I've never heard that.
Repeat that again.
Yeah.
Giant Gonzalez was so terrible to work with that he made the Great Khali look like Lou Thez.
Wow.
How terrible do you got to be to work with to make Khali look like Lou Thez?
That's pretty stiff, man. Good grief.
Yeah. No doubt.
That just always strikes me funny, but
yeah,
that's my 4 though: DDP, Sting, Hollywood Hogan, and Kane.
Okay, who's your 5th man off the bench? I guess is what we're calling him.
My 5th guy.
Yeah.
and was very debated, and I'm just going to go ahead and take HBK.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
And it's not always that I was the biggest fan of him, but just his music, even you just kind of bump along to it, even if you whatever. It's always probably one of the best entrance music songs of all time.
Oh yeah. As far as an
everybody
earworm,
sings along when you hear it.
no doubt.
You're
Yeah.
like, sexy boy. You're like, what am I singing this?
Exactly.
Getting out of the shower, drying yourself off with the towel. Sexy boy. Oh yeah.
But then like the super kick from him is like sweet chin music. It's not even. It's got its own name. Everybody else just does a super kick. That
right.
It's not even a finisher for the people. It's a
And speaking of, that is the move that literally took over the indies on the 90s, man. Wow. Like, I mean, on later into the 2000s even, but I know like 4 guys that use the super kick. Like, I'm sure Quinton could name even more, but.
Yeah, the 90s ago, yeah.
What do you think? I mean, but I don't know that at least any of the guys that do it now on the big stage, nobody even comes close to his. Now I know
Shane Morton's got a pretty good one. I'll give him some credit.
Well, no, I'm talking about like the people that are doing it, like that you.
He did the flying burrito a lot of times, but I do remember him I know I've took super kicks from him before.
Okay.
I don't know if that was a finisher, but yeah, I do remember he did the whole flying burrito gimmick. But I want to say he did, because I know I've took them before from him.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I'm sure Shane is a master of his craft. That I'm just talking about some of the people like the Usos or like the Young Bucks or anything like that you see. They don't even look like anything close to. And I guess it's maybe not supposed to be because they're not a finisher. But
right.
Who invented the super kick?
Chris Adams.
Chris
right?
Adams, yes.
I was going to say Chris Adams. That's the first person I ever saw do it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Chris. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't remember Chris what it looked like. Was his as good as HBK's?
No, because HBK had a more he had more flexibility. I think Chris Adams was more of just like a sidekick almost. But I mean, it looked good, But yeah.
Oh, and definitely in the 80s because nobody else was doing it.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, do you have any honorable mentions, Sheik?
Yeah, honorable mentions. I love Taz in ECW. I just didn't watch enough ECW. We didn't get it. You had to, it was deeper into the 90s before we ever really saw anything. But I always liked his character, like lone wolf like guy, just like suplexing everybody. Austin's on there, The Rock's on there, Bret Hart. I really liked Owen Hart too. I mean, Owen Hart was a great worker.
Oh yeah.
I'll say this name and please don't cancel me. Chris Benoit.
Canceled.
I mean, Chris Benoit was such a good worker. I like the character.
Yeah.
Hate his ending and everything. I mean, you could appreciate the work with and still be horrified by what happened at the end. So.
Absolutely. All right, Sheik. Well, that was a very good Mount Rushmore from the Mount Rushmore master himself. And of course, we are talking about the 1990s. And I tell you what, I'm as excited about this one as anybody because I kind of felt like I knew a little bit of Sheik's going in, but I don't know anything about Quinton's. So, Territory Wrestling Guru, lay it on us, brother. What's your Mount Rushmore of the 90s?
All right. So I usually, when I do these things, when somebody asks my favorite or top 10, or the Rushmore, I always go by me looking at them as a worker. But this time I'm actually going to go as who did I like watching in the 90s?
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And I got my top 5. So I'm going to go with number 5.
Okay.
And it's Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, there you go.
Because he was doing the Rockers, and then they did the breakup and everything, and
that's something I didn't even mention. The breakup is great with him and Marty.
Yeah. And then he gets some steam, and it seemed like when they put Sherry with him, he blossomed. He He kind of, it's like he really came out of his show. He had the cock, he was cocking it. But when they put Sherry with him and they just, I don't know, he did, and his matches, it just, his matches, you knew it was just going to be, I always watched it because I was like, man, it's so good. It don't matter who he's working. He worked Vader, and I was like, man, that was a good match.
Yeah.
And then he'd work Mankind, and it's like, whoa, that's a good match. Work the Bulldog, whoa, just I like watching it because man, it was like he was having great matches with different styles, and so I was always entertained by watching. I mean, not just looking through it as a work rate, but what he was doing was entertaining. Some people say he does those crazy two theatrical bumps and stuff, but when he was working, he was, especially around the mid 90s, he got so lean. And when you're in there working Vader, everybody's working bigger than you. You got to make it look like they just slung you, and you're flopping everywhere because that's what would happen. Yeah. So it was really entertaining. It was really good, solid matches. It seemed like, So but just watching him and I wanted to watch his matches. That's so that'd be my number 5 because it would just like I said, work rate, great work rate, but him just want me to. I mean, sometimes there's guys that's got great work rate, and I'm like, I'll pass on watching this match. On his, they're like, I got to see this because it's going to be good.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point.
Ric Flair says that he's the best in-ring performer basically ever, or in-ring talent ever. So
yeah, I think the only thing on Flair that he didn't have was the promos, honestly.
Yes.
And he had good promos. He did, but he didn't have Flair promos.
I mean, but Flair says he, like, in the ring.
I know. Yeah. I'm just saying, but you put them side by side.
Oh yeah,
I really think the only thing he's lacking on Flair is the promos.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But everybody's, coming for Flair. I mean,
that's true.
It's tough to, almost unfair.
Yeah, exactly.
Woo! Yeah.
All right, so we'll go to my number 4 guy.
Okay.
It's Terry Funk.
Oh man.
Fight forever.
Okay, so he just got done with the WCW stuff in '89. I think it might have been over a little bit of '90. I don't know. And then got one of my tapes in from Trek Tatum days. It was IWA. I put it in, and lo and behold, there's Terry Funk in there, just blood and gore. I'm like, whoa, what is this? And then I start reading that he's in this new promotion, called Eastern Championship Wrestling, and on the magazines, and I'm seeing him doing a moonsault in the magazine. I'm like, what the crap? So I finally get some ECW tapes in from the trade, and I'm like, dude, he's reinvented himself. And
totally.
And I was like, I can't wait to see, because and I guess Paulie just let him, or whoever's booking by the time I guess Paulie was already booking. I was like, just letting him do just free reign, and man, it was just good stuff. Then he left and went to New York, and the Chainsaw Charlie, that was, stupid and everything. But his stuff in ECW, man, and like I said, the Japan stuff, I loved it, man. I wanted to watch it, as a fan, I wanted to watch it,
Yeah.
It's like, what, because like I said, ECW is like, I was like, what's he going to do this, and the whole gimmick with the chairs. Where they put the chairs in.
I know.
Oh, golly.
At the opening of ECW, they're throwing the chairs in, and one hits him, and he goes down selling. It was, oh man, it was, definitely it's a fan. I love that time period of Funk, man. It was, and a lot of people don't get to see it, because a lot of people didn't see ECW until later on when he was about to leave. But man, some of that early stuff was crazy, man.
Oh, and, I know.
So yeah, so Terry Funk would definitely be my number 4. I mean,
and you know that real quick about Terry Funk, because I'm with you on that. I love Terry Funk. I love Terry Funk so much that I'm almost even thinking about changing my list here. But when he started in WCW that decade, he was with Gary Hart during that time, and then he ends up going to ECW, reinventing himself, and then he ends up back in New York, and then he ends up back at WCW by the end of the decade. So, I mean, the dude. God, if there is a heaven for wrestlers, I feel like that Terry Funk is almost one of the apostles. You know what I'm saying? Not to get sacrilegious here, not trying to, you know what I'm saying. But I just think he's so important to wrestling that, yes, the fact that he was able to completely reinvent himself, I love it. Keep going.
You talking about the WC? Did you ever see the episode? I think it was him and Candido were fighting
with the horse.
He got kicked by the horse.
I know.
Golly.
I love that. I love that so much.
Golly, man.
Daggone horse or whatever he says.
Man.
Every time I see that, I watch it like 2 or 3 times.
I know. I love it. I love it.
That was just, I mean, and that was Terry Funk at that time. It just, I mean, you didn't know. You expect the unexpected, man.
I know. Seriously.
That horse kick gets a little wrong way one way or the other, you're down for the count.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that could have ended very badly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He got lucky on that, man. Whew, okay. I just keep picturing my hands tickle myself thinking about it.
I mean, it's hilarious.
Candido, right? Was that Candido?
Yeah, I'm fairly positive it was Candido.
I'm pretty positive too.
Yeah, he was in there involved somehow. I'm pretty sure he was in the match. I remember seeing him somewhere in that. All that was going on.
I can just pull that up and laugh like it just happened. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. They said WCW wasn't good at that time period. Come on.
I mean, it wasn't in certain elements, but it was also very entertaining. And I mean, Jared and I can't speak for you, Q, but I know Jared and I watched it till the end.
I did too.
Yeah, I figured you did, because there were glimpses of good through that time. Let's just say that,
Yeah. It wasn't all bad.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
All right, so we'll go to my number 3. And it is Eddie Guerrero.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
First saw him, got a tape of the Worlds Collide, what it's called in LA with the where him and Art Barr got their head shaved. I didn't know. Yeah. I knew who Art Barr was, but I did not know. I knew who. I'd never seen Eddie Guerrero before. They knew he was part of the Guerrero family, but I didn't know anything about him.
Yeah.
I started getting those tapes, and started getting the ECW tapes, and I was like, man, I was like, man, this guy's good.
I know.
And I just, always, I mean, Malenko was part of it in ECW, and their matches were just unbelievable. And I don't think Malenko gets as much credit as Eddie does in that ECW run. But them two together, I think it had to be those two together to make that,
Oh, yeah.
But Eddie but I just like Eddie a little more. And then when he went to WCW, when he first went to WCW, man, I liked him. I mean, they were putting very, was getting a little bit of push, and it was cool because you always got to see his matches on like the BC shows on Saturday mornings. He wasn't on every Nitro or none of that, but you could always see him on the weekend shows, Saturday night and stuff. And it's like, so I got to see a lot of him, and I was like, man, I really like his style because it was something different. And like I said, I watching from the ECW stuff, and I just like, man, I really, usually I wouldn't like his style, but I just something about him. It was, I don't know, he was so good. And then they started giving him a little. When they turned him heel and gave him a little some character with the LWO, and I was like, and he did that really good. And so I mean, I really enjoyed watching him. And then when he went to New York, it just he blew up. But I really did enjoy his like I said, I loved his ECW stuff. And some of his WCW stuff was toned down from the ECW on some of the stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching Eddie Guerrero.
Man, I tell you, that Los Gringos Locos tag team with Art Barr and him, y'all, I've, other than going to find some Wild Boys Devils matches, I cannot tell you to look up a tag team more than the Los Gringos Locos. You know, I honestly feel like they were, I know that was a bit of a faction in AAA, if I'm not mistaken, and you probably know better than me on that, Quinton. But I know that.
I don't. I just watched those two. That's one thing
I think it was a part of a bigger faction.
But time I actually saw that, they were already gone.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So because I got on a tape later, and but they were already gone from there, so I don't know.
Yeah.
You know.
How good of a feud would have been if that Los Gringos Locos and PG-13 could have worked a long feud? Man.
Oh,
can you imagine? Good. Can you imagine how good that would have been? I've talked about that several times before.
Art Barr and Jamie Dundee in the same. I'd peel myself from laughing.
Yeah. Do you know much about Art? I don't, unfortunately. I've enjoyed every bit of his career, but
I just from his stuff up in Portland, and then and then they put the Beetlejuice gimmick on him,
right,
and then actually got him a job in WCW, and then they. That kind of, I don't know what actually happened with that. And then he went to Mexico and just blew up down there. And it was crazy because and this was after, and this was actually, I think, after maybe Art had passed. I got a video. This guy used to be really big in tape trades. His name was Bob Barnett.
Mm-hmm.
And he did this thing where he went and he was in the locker room with Art and Eddie after they got their heads shaved, and he was talking to him. He's like one of the first guys. I think he's the first guy that did I think he did the Eddie Gilbert shoot. He's like one of the first shoot guys.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
yes.
And he ran. I just remember from the tape trading days, and I actually met him one time. But anyway, he was a big time tape trader, and he was out of L.A. He had something to do with had an in, I don't know. But anyway, he was taping them back there, and he was talking to him, and he looked and said, "Hey, all right, Paulie and Todd Gordon, here's your two guys. You better get them now. They're going to be gone. Somebody's going to pick them up. You better get them now." And then, like I said, I think Art passed, and then Eddie, they picked up Eddie, and he went up. But yeah, it was like, this was after, I said that, this was after a little while later, I had got the tape, they was already gone from AAA. But yeah, but now they used to get on their backs and act like they were swimming across the Rio Grande in front of the people. And man, they had some heat, boy. God. Yeah. It was crazy. But yeah, he just, I don't know. I just love watching his matches. But
yeah, he's incredible. Absolutely.
So, all right. This is going to be my second guy, my number 2. And I've thought about this, and I was like, and number 2 is RVD.
And
it's ECW because when he went to New York, I don't know, I didn't really care. But I loved his ECW stuff.
Oh man. Yeah.
I love, and for somebody that's really old school, that just don't really, it seemed like that's totally opposite. But man, in I don't know what it was, but ECW, man, and that, him and Sabu, man, when they, oh man, that tag team, they just, when they worked against each other, they put them as a tag team. I mean, it was just, I don't know, that he just really, I don't know, it was, I just like, I don't know, it's like, that's totally, I'm old school, but man, when his stuff, I was just like, I just loved it, man.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he was unlike anybody we had ever seen before, honestly.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right, yeah, that's what it was.
He was like, it was a bit of, because I mean, you had like Benoit, you could trace his lineage to the Dynamite Kid, Eddie Guerrero, his family, Dean Malenko, his dad, Boris. But with RVD, he didn't wrestle like the Sheik. You know what I mean?
No.
No. And he was totally different than everybody else. And he's one of those guys that I am being a 6'2" kid that grew too fast and never felt like he grew into becoming very
coordination.
Yeah, I didn't carry my coordination well after growing to 6'2". And so seeing somebody like him, like Ray Phoenix, like Ray Mysterious, those Sabu, all those guys that are in so much control of their body, it impresses me. I think, there needs to be an extra level of talent for these people like a RVD. There needs to be an extra level of gratitude towards them because of the talent that they have with their own body. It's amazing.
Yeah. But I just when I saw him first when he worked for the Jarretts, that little brief period.
Yeah,
and then the Robbie V was in WCW.
I think that's probably where I first saw him. Yeah.
And then, but when I started watching, they get those tapes and stuff, and then I was actually seeing it on American One Network, the ECW stuff, and I was like, and then I can't remember what channel they actually went on. We started getting here in Nashville. I want to say 96-ish. I want to say 97-ish on one of the cable channels here in Nashville. I can't remember what it was, but yeah. So I remember seeing him earlier, from the tapes, and I was just like, man, this guy, because I'd see the luchador stuff and and Japan stuff, and I was like, I never saw American fly around like that,
Yeah, definitely.
I was like, wow, and me being so old school, I'll be like, hey, whatever, but I don't know, man. There was something about him, man. But I don't know, it seemed like when he went to New York, it just killed it for me. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I know what you're saying for sure.
He's not the only one they've ever killed.
Yeah, that's a long list of that, but yeah, I really, but the things with him and Sabu, and they were teaming, but they still didn't. He would get Sabu right. Sabu would want to hit him, and it was just funny stuff. I mean, I don't know. It was just good. It was good stuff, man. I love it.
I totally agree.
And now a word from our sponsor.
CHW is continuing the legacy of historic professional wrestling in Tennessee with monthly events at the Armory in Ashland City. CHW owner Mike Green has made it his mission to present the best pro wrestling shows in the Nashville area, and he has been delivering the goods. CHW Wrestling combines all the elements that Tennessee wrestling fans have come to expect. Action, suspense, athleticism, reality, stories, surprises, and excitement, all delivered by the finest professional wrestlers this state has to offer. Follow CHW Pro Wrestling on Facebook for the latest news, announcements, and show dates. And subscribe to Championship Productions on YouTube to see past events like the Ashland City Rumble and the Valentine's Massacre. Fun for the whole family with delicious and affordable concessions on site. Witness the action and excitement of CHW in Ashland City at the Armory. Family Wars, Love and Hate, Championship Gold. A CHW event is everything you're looking for in a night of live entertainment.
All right, so here comes my number one. You probably don't. This is when I wrote it, and I was like,
Tommy Hagee. It's okay, Tommy Hagee. Just say it.
When you're doing the locals, that would be my.
Yeah.
But my number one is Raven.
Oh. Oh man, I like this. Yeah, that's awesome.
That was you?
No, I wasn't, but I'm happy.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, like I said, 90s. I mean, that was. Man, when I started getting those tapes of ECW, man, I was like, wow, what, and because, he come off from, he was, he started Memphis, but he was in Memphis for a little while, Scotty the Body, then he went to Florida, Portland, all these other places, and And then what was he, Scotty Flamingo and Global. Then he came back to Memphis as Scotty. I don't know. He's Scotty something. It was Scotty something.
Yeah.
He come back to Memphis.
Something Polo something or
That's when he went
Johnny
to New York.
Polo. He was in New York as Johnny Polo.
Before he went to New York.
Was it just Levy? Was it just Levy?
No.
Okay.
No. When the second time he came, he was because he already been Global WCW, and he came back to Memphis for a short, brief run. Because I think him and like Brian Christopher were like the tag team champions. He wasn't here that long, and then he went to New York as Johnny Polo.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then it's like, and he's Johnny Polo, and then he was just a manager, Johnny Polo, and then he's gone, and then I get a tape, and it's like, it's Johnny Polo. What the crap is this? Stevie Richards, comes out, and he's in, and it's like, and he's like, here's this, here's Raven. I'm like, Ray, what? What is that's? I was like, whoa, and I was like, it wasn't his work rate. I mean, his work was what it's supposed to be.
Right.
It was like, he wasn't, well, no, because his character went there and started just having these technical matches and be like, what the crap,
Right.
And I got to give a little side thing on this one. I don't think Raven would have got over as much as he did if it wasn't for Stevie Richards being with him.
Yeah.
Man, those two together, and just the Stevie Richards being so goofy and then Raven was just so serious, and it was just, it helped Raven get even more. But the whole thing, that whole feud with Dreamer, I mean, it was like 2 years, but they would throw Sandman in there some, but it was still lingering. They kept it lingering. Paulie was a genius on this booking because everything he said it was just a blood and guts. But man, he had some really thick storylines that carried.
Yeah, definitely.
But it just, I don't know whose idea it was for the Raven character. If it was Raven's actually, or if it was Paul, whoever made the decision to do the character, he knew. I don't know, it was something about it, man. He did it perfect,
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I just thought I'd watch his matches.
Oh man, I loved him. The second I saw him, you can ask Jared. I was a big fan, and I remember the thing.
You're a rock star.
Yeah, total, like a grunge rocker, and that's when I was totally into grunge. The cool thing I loved about him that a lot of you probably know this, Quinton, Jared, you probably heard this. Between that run of Johnny Polo and Vince did everything he could to get him on creative. Like he wanted, and I think he was probably in early 30s at that point, maybe.
Yeah,
30s maybe. And Vince is wanting to take him off the road, everything as a wrestler, and turn him into total creative. That's how intelligent Raven is. That's probably why you liked him so much. And I know now that that's probably why I liked him so much, because he was so intelligent and that he could make what Paul was doing and writing, and he could push it further because of his mind too, So
I was like, Paul's book, and he knew, I'm sure Paul said, here's what we want. Here's the, in general idea.
Right.
He can do it. And he just, and man, he knew, I don't know, it was just something about, he did that character perfect.
Did y'all spend time together at USWO? Were you there when he was there?
No.
Okay,
no.
I didn't know if that lined up or not. Or
no.
Did you ever work on any local shows with him?
No, never met him.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Never got to meet
Me
him.
either. Me either. I didn't either. I was just curious if you did though, because I know that he spent a little time in the USWO there for a minute. So.
And then when they took him to WC, I know when he went to WCW, I was like, oh man,
Yeah. Right.
But they didn't do as bad as I thought. I mean, they could have really screwed it up. I mean.
Yeah.
And I knew it wasn't going to be the same.
Right.
There's just no way it was going to be the same. But they didn't do. I mean, like I said, they could have made it worse.
Yes, they definitely could.
But I just that time period, just. I mean, I always wanted to see, watch his matches, and then when he wasn't on there, he was always on the little thing at the end, where the little thing, I don't know if they call it at the end of every ECW TV where they play the music and everybody does their little skits and interviews and stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I call him an outro, but I doubt that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, the same music they play, that same song.
Yeah.
But it was all he was on one every time. And it was always him sitting there and Stevie doing something stupid. And and then later they brought in Blue Meanie and it's just, I don't know, he just always had a cast of characters around him.
Yeah.
And everybody else is laughing, but he would never break. It's like, how is he not breaking when Stevie's sitting there with a freaking kielbasa sausage hanging out of his short shorts,
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, no, I like to see what, and he was always getting on top of Dreamer. Somehow Dreamer could never, is like, well, how are they going to do it this time? And it made me want to watch and see, like, okay, how's he going to screw Dreamer over this time?
Oh yeah.
It just, I love that, 3-year period or whatever it was. He was in ECW. That was my favorite because I wanted to see how they did the gimmick, what they're doing. And then when they broke him off with Sandman and whoever's idea, all that. I mean, I know they got a lot of heat with the crew, the cross and all that. And
right.
But the stuff with the Sandman and his wife and the son, man, that was, whoever come up with that, man, that was crazy. I always, and you can do stuff with somebody, but if you don't believe in that person doing it, it's not going to get over. And It just, everything he did in ECW seemed like I don't know if the word I'm looking, believable, because the character, I don't know. I really got into the actual character and the way he was working it, and I don't know. I'm trying to make justification for him being my number one.
And I don't think you have to, man.
No justification needed.
Yeah, I agree.
I know, but I'm so old school on my stuff, and
right.
It's like Raven, but that's what I just really got into it.
Man, I like it. Trust me. Sheik will tell you, man. I love it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's a good list, man. I like that one. So do you have any honorable mentions you'd like to throw in there just off the top of your head?
I probably would say Sabu, because like I said, he was in there with Van Dam and doing crazy stuff. And
yeah,
I had to watch his stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's an easy one to put on this list as well. And I'm surprised, but I like that you are such an ECW fan. I like that.
Oh, big time. Loved it.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. All right. Well, I'm going to go with my list, if you guys are ready, of the James Rock Street's official Mount Rushmore of the 90s. And I guess number one, and I'm kind of halfway between what you did, Sheik, and what Quinton did, but I guess number one for me is probably the number one on the list if we have to say anybody from the 90s. And I think it's kind of undeniable, but I really loved his work, especially when he started out as a very stunning wrestler.
What?
But when he became Stone Cold, he really nailed it.
Give me a hell yeah!
And I just always loved him, man. I remember when he was a heel as the early Stone Cold, and I think I got one of his little action figures for Christmas or something. I don't know, but I just loved him. I thought he was cool. He reminded me of the bad guy from Con Air, John Malkovich, whatever his name was in that movie, Cyrus the Virus.
Cyrus the Virus, yeah.
Yeah. He reminded me of him a little bit, but I always loved him and Brian Pillman together when they were the Hollywood Blondes. I didn't know as much about him in the early days of USWA and when he was working down in Texas and Tennessee and stuff. But when he became Stunning Steve in WCW, I thought he was the next Ric Flair, to be honest. And then, and then he totally changes his style and everything. I love Stone Cold, man, for sure.
I mean, it's hard to argue with a man that sold that much merchandise.
I know,
with a simple little catchphrase.
That's why I hate picking them, but I love it. It's like picking Hogan
it's
for
almost
the
like
80s.
Yeah, I almost had to work hard not to pick him though for my list too. I kind of.
Quinton said no working list, Sheik. Quinton said no.
Sorry, Quinton. I disappointed. Quinton, what did you? Since you're such a big ECW guy, I'm finding out. Like, what did you? Do you remember seeing his stuff, like Stone Cold stuff he did in ECW? I mean, like,
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna put. Let me get this out here first. As a human being, I think he's a piece of garbage.
Okay.
But there's a lot of those in the wrestling business that.
I mean, yeah, I was gonna say,
sure. Yeah.
They're pieces of garbage in real life, but are when they go through the curtain, they're you can't touch them.
Right.
His ECW stuff, I recommend seeing it because he had no filter. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know.
He had no filter. Just got fired from WCW. Had no filter and a microphone. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he and whoever he was working, it was hope you don't get your feelings hurt. He said, who was it? I think it was a woman. He said something about clothespin and $5 or something like that. He was. Yeah, I'd highly recommend just his promos and it was good stuff.
That we need to do, since we have Zoom now and it's so watch along friendly, we need to do a watch along of his ECW run and put that out. I think that's a good idea for a show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be entertaining to no end. So yeah, no doubt. And he's ripping on Hogan the whole time. That definitely have to put him number one. So my number two is, and this guy is also kind of started the decade differently than he ended it. Let's just say that, similar to Stone Cold. But honestly, I liked his earlier part of the decade better, but the latter part of the decade was also cool too. He was also on the Plastic Sheik's list, of course. He's the $25,000 interview man, Sting. Yeah, no, but Sting, dude. I mean, we love Surfer Sting, no question. He made us change we love Dusty, we love Magnum, we love the Rock and Rolls, we love the Road Warriors. But man, when Sting came along, he was kind of like the perfect blend of a lot of them. He was like Hulk Hogan and the Road Warriors put together or something. But anyway, yeah. And then he turns into the Crow, like we talked about. I don't have to go too far on Sting, but man, I mean, I do think that Sting is one of those guys that probably, I think he's already said it and we all know it, that he's one of those guys that came into the business to make money and not necessarily that he was a big wrestling fan. He saw it as a money and a job, and I understand that, and he did awesome at it. But that kind of knocks him down a little bit because Stone Cold's such a wrestling fan. I've never even heard Sting talk about wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he does an interview, he talks about his career. He doesn't, Stone Cold can talk about matches he watched in the 70s and stuff. Sting, you never really hear that from him. You'll hear about his matches. Maybe I'm wrong, but I
can't. I'm trying to think. You're pretty much right, I think.
Like, can you hear Sting talking about Harley Race and Flair? Or I'm sure he would talk about it, but you can just kind of tell he's not as much of a fan of wrestling. So
yeah, he's a bodybuilder that got in to make money. Basically.
Exactly, and I mean, good for him, right? So,
I'm not knocking it. No.
Yeah,
but by all means, I've heard a great person.
Exactly. So there you go. What can be said? So, but Jared's kind of gone deep on Sting earlier. Quinton, what do you think about Sting, man?
I really liked when he first, got to WCW or NWA, where it was when he left. When Watts bought him out. Yeah, I knew of him from Nashville, knew him from Watts, and then when he, it's like I really liked Sting in the '80s, late '80s, '90s. And it just kind of. WCW just kind of was dormant, and it wasn't his fault, but just wasn't nothing really to just sink your teeth in to watch, for him.
Right.
I mean, he was having good matches and stuff, but there was nothing. It was not his fault. It just, I didn't really watch a lot of his stuff.
Right.
There wasn't much at WCW at the time that made you want to watch.
Right.
You'd watch it, but not. Like say, oh man, I got to see this Sting match because him and this guy's just gonna be, I got to watch it, because but man, it like I said, none of his fault, but in, earlier years, I loved it,
Yeah.
I think it hurt him just by not having those great heels around him,
Oh, I agree with that for sure. Yeah.
I think that hurt him. But then, like I said, no fault of his own, though. It's not, he only did with what was around him, at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a whole what if about him going to the WWE in '90 instead of the Ultimate Warrior, and him facing Hogan, and if the Ultimate Warrior, how he would have done against Ric Flair. Anyway, go back in the archives and check that out if y'all want to. But we had a fun time with that back when we did that, and I think that it's interesting because I've kind of recently re-listened to the Magnum TA interview, and he was talking about how he didn't think he would have kept going in WCW after Turner bought it. He would have tried to gone to WWE, but it almost feels like Sting was too late in the game. He needed to get over in WCW to end up going to WWE. So he was kind of just too late, where Magnum had that earlier start, of course, but Sting did okay. We can't knock that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was the HBK and the Taker and the Hitman Hart of WCW for a long time, if you think about it. So anyway, but my next one is number 3 on the list. This guy, I just absolutely treasure his work, his body of work. He does hold a grudge, and as far as grudge holders go, this guy might be one of the best of all time, but golly, I love his work so much. He had a great tag team with the Anvil. His brother could be on this list easily. He's so incredible. But to me, the one I got to put on in my number 3 spot is Bret the Hitman Hart.
That's a good one. That's really, if I was doing work rate, he'd be on there.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And then to watch like I said, I did mine as fans. It's kind of hard to put I didn't have enough room.
Yeah.
But yeah, he would, actually, he's kind of in that Sting thing where,
right.
Business was down in New York at the time, and he was there, they put the belt on him and then kind of blamed him for it. But he was really over. The only thing they really had over babyface that time, in the early 90s.
Yeah. Do you think it would have served him better to have changed his look a little more when he came out of, or do you think the look was fine and it really was more about the time frame of his business? Because I almost feel like sometimes he was just, he didn't change anything of his look. He just kept the Hart Foundation look going. And so it's almost like, when Ricky Morton broke off and went into the York Foundation, but was still dressing like the rock and roll. Do you know what I'm saying? Or am I just overthinking it?
I don't think it would have worked for him.
Okay. Yeah.
Because what would he have changed it to?
That's a good point.
Because cut his hair and change it. He would have definitely got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Cut his hair, took away the pink and black. Even though his work would still have been top notch right there, I think, especially because they were grasping at straws to push, to find something. And if he changed, I think that would have hurt.
Yeah, and I guess I'm looking at it from I know that a lot of guys like where Triple H, he came back after being a quad injury. He all of a sudden he used to wear tights and he went to trunks. And you being a former wrestler, you might know this more. I think the guys in trunks, that was almost like the guys in trunks were like where you wanted to be if you could get there. Does that make sense? Like look, and it felt like trunks were kind of like the ultimate gear to wear for like a wrestler. I maybe I'm overthinking this and this is nothing to it, but I feel like sometimes the alternate looks like every guy is trying to get to trunks. If that makes it, am I wrong on that?
I don't know.
You don't think that's a thing? Probably.
Because look at Shawn Michaels never went to Trump.
Right. And you're right.
So, I don't know. I think it's just a personal thing. It might, in your head, it might if I go, and he always, he wore trunks in WCW.
Right.
And then when he went to New York, he had a gimmick, and I guess he just stuck with, I guess he said, well, I'm coming back. Let's kind of reinvent myself a little bit. Just go to Trump.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking maybe. But
Okay.
I think it's just preference
Yeah.
and gimmick wise.
Yeah.
So
Bret Hart, what can you say? His like real hatred for Shawn Michaels,
I know,
like led to such. I mean, like they are like the ultimate feud to me because of like the real life heat they had with each other. Like, when Shawn Michaels is like sunny days are ahead of you, it's like trying to accuse Bret Hart or something. Now that's all been denied by Sonny and Bret Hart, but like, it was just so funny that I guess he was just maybe trying to get Bret to like really break a little bit or something. I don't know, like really just flip out on him, cuss him out or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't, because I mean, he was the one that was doing the sunny days.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was like, eesh. But maybe that was coming from jealousy. If you think about it, maybe he was jealous because Sonny liked Bret too, and maybe they were just friends. And that's I love Bret's
Sonny
book.
liked everybody. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah, so too bad I think of her about like you think of Stone Cold Q. So
definitely.
Well, that's true about her though too.
I mean, first of all, she used to get me in trouble for getting on the internet at 3 a.m. when I was a teenager because it made that loud noise. Never mind that. I didn't say that.
Yeah, that's only that noise you could hear.
I hope. And then you get the girl who actually drives and kills people, man. It's it's so sad. I mean, it really is. But just the stories that Tom Pritchard's told me, and that I've heard about how bad she treated Chris, I just can't say much nice about her, man. So
but back to Bret Hart.
Right. Thank you.
I mean, like I get a little sad about Bret Hart because like I feel like how his career ended with the Goldberg kick and how much bitterness I feel like Bret has held on to with that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I can understand being bitter about that, and I can, but I just feel like he needs to let it go a little bit just for his own like peace
sake.
Yeah. Not for Goldberg's peace, but just for his own like just peace of mind or something like that.
Yeah, because I guarantee Goldberg don't care.
Goldberg's essentially said that he goes, I've apologized.
I'm sorry
100 times. I can't apologize anymore. It's like,
Here's my take on that. Do you think Bret's working?
Gosh, I've thought that. I mean, that.
It keeps him relevant.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think he was an undercover agent to take down WCW like Vince Russo from WWF?
I know I'm with all that stuff, but I don't know. If you're not, I just think if you're always talking about it, there's a reason. He's keeping himself relevant. You know?
Yeah.
And because surely he's not. I don't see somebody could just be that
Yeah.
I mean,
Bret's a pretty serious guy, though. He always came out as a pretty serious guy, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, I don't know.
Maybe he's got some financial difficulties that kick would have, had it not happened, would have resolved for him, maybe. It's hard to tell, man. And then, second generation guy who probably had maybe another 5 years in the ring solid, I'm sure he, is ticked about that, especially because, if you look at it from the outside looking in, Goldberg's another guy like a Sting or a Batista or somebody who came in for the money and, was like, okay, I can do this. Why not? And Bret lives it, loved it, breathed it, again, but I don't know, man. I do love Bret for sure. Okay. So my number 4, and this one is actually, I changed my number 4. I had one on there that probably should deserve to be on there, and somebody out there in listener land's going to be like, y'all are idiots. But this number 4 is my new number 4 because I changed it because I wanted to, and Quinton maybe gave me a little thought process on this. But my number 4 is the man of 1,000 holds, Dean Malenko. I honestly thought about it. I could not include Dean on here because I absolutely just loved Dean in the 90s. WCW Monday Nitro, his stuff in ECW, his stuff with his brother, my goodness, great tag team work there. But Dean, to me, he did so much and never really cut a promo that much, but did so much in the ring. He was just an incredible worker and a wrestler. And I think I look at it from a perspective of, I think he was, in Quinton's perspective, I think he was the better wrestler, obviously. But with Dean, man, and another reason that I've got to throw him on here is because my band actually wrote a song for him and tried to give it to him in the 90s. I actually sent copies of the CD to ECW. I know I did that, but, and I never got it to him. And then Pam Pitts Lynn, Jerry Lynn's wife, actually made that connection happen when I posted the song on Facebook, and Jerry got the song to Dean, and then Dean apparently heard it and said, "Hey, that was cool." So I don't know that he was like jamming out to it or anything, but still.
Man of 1,000 holds, man of few words.
Right. And and the song was called Submission. It was a perfect song for Dean, but hey, just wrong time, wrong place, whatever. But anyway, love Dean Malenko. So that's my number 4. So
very good choice.
Yeah, like I said, he was he made Guerrero, him and Guerrero made themselves together in ECW, so I mean, he's right up there, man, to watch because he was so smooth in the ring and just, smooth and crisp, which is sometimes you don't get. You get somebody that's just too smooth and their stuff don't look as crisp, but everything will need to be crisp, look crisp. Everything will need to be smooth, look smooth. So yeah, it's fun. It was really good to watch.
Yeah, that's the best description of Dean I can think of, actually. Everything that needed to be smooth and everything that needed to be crisp. And that's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, and they're near the end when they had the Horsemen, and then it was the Revolutionaries or whatever. And then they became the Radicals in WWE. I loved all that. I thought that was all cool. I thought he was a great Horseman. I know that was a weird era for the Horsemen, but I just loved. I thought he fit just like Benoit. I thought they both fit that perfect spot for them. Yeah. My number 5 guy this one is absolutely from the heart. This guy, honestly, of the 80s, my number 1 wrestler probably is Ricky Morton, just from my heart. But I think in the 90s, I was getting older. And even though really when I was enjoying this guy more was when he was a heel and I wasn't a heel. I wasn't a heel mark at this point, but I just loved him. And now that I've gotten to know him just a little bit, I just think the world of him. And I think he deserves all the accolades he can get. He had a great run in the 80s with Lynn Denton as the Grapplers and Dirty White Boys. But man, then in Continental with Dr. Tom and just, God, they had some incredible matches, and y'all need to go watch all those if you can. Mm-hmm. But to me, Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony, he's my number 5 on the Mount Rushmore of the 90s, and I really don't care what anybody thinks.
Hey, it's your pick. I mean, you think about it. Smoky Mountain, you think, of me besides the Rock and Roll Express, but singles wise in Smoky Mountain, 2 people. Dirty White Boy, Tracy Smothers.
There you go.
Yeah. So
right.
It's who you liked. Yeah. And he kept it. He was a mainstay Smoky Mountain and put out some good stuff.
Yeah, and that was Jared and I, because, when Crockett went away, we loved WCW, of course, but we did avidly watch Smoky Mountain, and I think that kind of replaced the love of the wrestling we loved from Crockett that had changed to WCWE kind of thing. You know what I mean? WCWWE, it kind of was becoming a more polished type product and Turner rather than the old school Crockett. But man, Smoky Mountain, that was it. I remember wanting to skip church to watch it. You know what I'm saying? And we would get in trouble for that. So,
Smoky Mountain. This is when I watched Smoky Mountain. It was at the time I was like, it was like watching a 80s NWA Worldwide episode.
Yeah.
That's what it had, that feel.
Yeah, it did. And it was like, and you couldn't get that anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Nope.
So since that was gone, you had to, and then, of course, love it. Bob Caudle, my favorite announcer of all time, my favorite commentator of all time. And I loved him and Dutch together because Dutch would give him crap. But
Yeah,
also
they were good together.
But Dutch was also very respectful of him too, and it was a great combo. And the guys that worked there were incredible. I mean, I just love Smoky Mountain, but at the same time, that made me love Dirty White Boy. And like I said, I've gotten to know him just a little bit. I'm not calling him a best friend. I'll give that gimmick to somebody else. But I will say that I really respect and absolutely adore the Dirty White Boy, Tony Anthony. So that's my number 5.
Good.
Yeah.
You beat it, man.
It was your the time, it's who you liked.
Yeah, absolutely.
To watch,
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to give y'all some of these quick honorable mentions here. So some of my quick honorable mentions, we have HBK, Undertaker, of course. Come on. Macho Man. I think Macho Man's just making DDP's career gave something to the 90s. You know what I'm saying? He had a great career. I don't love it as much as his 80s run, and that's why he's not on my list, because he kind of went to the cover his body time. You know what I'm saying? It was like he'd given up a little bit, but I know it was probably because of the juice type stuff. But his body had gotten smaller, so he kind of covered himself up a little more. And also another one, Quinton brought up the ECW guys. I loved Tommy Dreamer. He was probably my first favorite wrestler from ECW when we first started watching ECW, very late at night on public access in Rosedale. Raven, loved Raven. Really, really started loving Raven more in WCW. And then I went back and found his ECW stuff and then loved him even more after that. I really loved Chris Jericho's stuff in the 90s. My other one, of course, is Eddie Guerrero. Gotta love him. I mean, we talked about him in advance. And then Quinton brought the Terry Funk up, but Terry Funk, Roddy Piper, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan all had solid decades, even as limited as they were becoming. They really extended their career in the 90s. And you could really say WCW helped them all do that, So that's my official Mount Rushmore of the 90s. So what I would like to do now is I would like for each of us to take one person from the list, and we're going to make the ultimate 4 Mount Rushmore of the 90s, the official Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling Mount Rushmore of the 90s. So I want you guys to take one each of your list. We'll put them together and we'll figure out the 4th man in just a second. So, Sheik, who's the one from your list?
Sting.
Quinton, who's the one from your list?
I guess I have to go Shawn Michaels.
Okay. All right. On mine, I'm going to go, no question here, Stone Cold Steve Austin. So, now, that's our 3. Now, who do we want to say is number 4 in the ultimate Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling Mount Rushmore of the 90s? What's your thinking, Sheik?
I don't know, man. I'm trying to think. It's so tough because we went with a lot of heart in there and some of them. So I think it'd be pretty tough to leave Bret off, even though he wasn't in my Mount Rushmore. But it's tough to think about leaving Bret off when you're considering all the things.
Okay.
I don't know.
What about you, Quinton? What about you? Who do you think should be there?
I think I go with Jared on that, Bret Hart.
Well, okay. You guys are twisting my arm here. I'm going with Bret the Hitman Undertaker. No, I'm just kidding. Bret Hart it is. So our official Mount Rushmore of the 1990s is Sting, HBK, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Bret the Hitman Hart. Guys, we hope y'all have enjoyed this as much as we've making it. Jared, Sheik, Quinton, I want to thank y'all so much for making your list. This was fun. You guys, if y'all want to hear another type of Mount Rushmore show down the line from us, let us know. For full transparency, we daggone almost re-recorded an entire episode without knowing. So, yeah, we almost did the feuds episode again, and really was very close to recording that and found out that we had already recorded that back on episode 31. So
if you want to hear our feuds,
yeah, or maybe we just need to let Quinton do the whole show and he can do his feuds, and we'll do a part 2 on the feuds or something. But anyway, I don't know. But y'all have an idea for Mount Rushmores, y'all let us know out there in listener land. But other than that, thank y'all again for listening. We'll be right back to wrap things up with Quinton and the Sheik on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com, and to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to uswapodcast.com.
That's right, it's the talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
Hi, this is Mike Needham, host of the Reckless Abandon podcast with Mike Needham. We invite you to jump on your favorite podcast platform and search for the Reckless Abandon podcast and give us a listen. I'm sometimes joined by a part-time podcaster, part-time co-host, and full-time wife, Tiffany Nicole. We talk wrestling, we talk pop culture, we talk local events, local happenings in West Tennessee, and a ton of other stuff. But be sure to check out the Reckless Abandon podcast. Find us on Facebook. Also, look up the Microgroup Podcasting family on Facebook and see some of our other podcasts we have out there. Until next time, make good choices and always remember, no dollar, no dice.
Oh, Sheik and Quinton, one more excellent, fun episode. Man, that was a lot of fun, and Quinton's pulling out some crazy names that we didn't expect, but I love it, man. I'm all about it. It actually helped me fine-tune my list, so that was fun. What do you think, Sheik?
Man, I love stuff like this, my favorite question. So it was great to do our lists, and, I honestly didn't know what Quinton's list was going to be. I mean, I kind of had a feel for yours and knew that at least a couple names would be on yours, but I'm always excited to be completely surprised and find out a list on the fly.
Yeah, and Quinton, man, the ECW love.
Yeah,
it's evident, brother.
I loved ECW, man, back in that time period. And like I said, I changed it because I usually go by, the worker, I went by me watching as a fan. And that's what I like. I loved watching ECW. So.
Wow, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun from whatever we got to watch of it, because it just felt like there was less fat to trim on the ECW shows. WCW, they would always say that you had the mid card you could watch, but the main events were a little soft. And then on WWE was kind of the opposite. They said the mid card was a little soft, but the main events were always great. But I always felt like ECW never really had that fat to trim. I always think they were, you know what I'm saying? I always think they put out really, really high quality shows. And it may just be Paul Heyman, you know what I'm saying? He's still so prominent in wrestling these days, but I don't know. There was something about ECW that was absolutely magical for sure.
If his checkbook could have kept up with the creativity, brother.
Oh, he'd still be there today. No question. Obviously, we thank you all so much. One more time, we got to remind you all, the most popular segment in podcasting history, This Week in Wrestling, History with Quinton Quarisma is no longer a segment. It is a new episode that'll be every third Thursday of the month, starting in July. Make sure y'all check that out when it drops. Of course, if you want to know all the things that we've got coming up, at GMBMPW on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you so much for following, subscribing, liking, sharing, supporting, listening, all that. Just keep it up. We greatly thank you all so much. We do have a guest or a topic next week. Not 100% sure on which one it is, but we're doing it. It's going to happen. Thank you all so much immensely. Quinton, Sheik, awesome lists. This was a lot of fun. Let's do it again soon. So for the Territory Wrestling Guru, Quinton Quarisma, the Plastic Sheik, Jared Street, and myself, this has been Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Don't forget.
The gossip around the wrestling world is that Raven and Luna Vachon were an item when they were both working for the World Wrestling Federation. Standing by right now with comments of his own somewhere underneath the arena is Raven talking about his torrid affair with Luna.
Richards. Go away. The scars that Luna left on Richard's back is nothing compared to the mental anguish I live with every day. Between the idea and the reality, between the motion and the act, falls the Raven. Between conception and creation, between emotion and response, falls the Raven. History is a pattern of timeless moments. And Tommy Dreamer, you know full well that ours are intertwined forever. And it amuses me to think that the girlfriend of your youth now worships me. And the hideous gargoyle I was once stuck with is now stuck to you. Luna, to spend another night of carnal lust with you, I'd sooner be crucified. Quote the Raven, nevermore.
With a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life.
This has been a James Rock Street production.